Yes, I want to start. All right. Hopefully we're live. I'll give it a second here to see if it actually starts over on this other screen where I'm watching. Let's wait.
Oh,
So,
I think it did.
did it work?
It just says it's live, so
Sure. All right. Oh,
I believe it.
hey, there we go. All right. Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Oh my gosh, a technological miracle. I figured something out. I figured out how to reschedule the streams. I figured out how to set this all up properly. Oh my good golly goshness. I'm an old man, but hey, I guess you can teach us new tricks once in a while. So, this week, joining me as always, my own little Skaven slave. It's Tom. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, you've used that one.
I'm sure I have.
Oh, you've used that
You
one.
could have been my giant rat.
Oh, man, I am so disappointed in you.
You know what?
Okay.
I'm sorry I don't keep a list, Tom.
Hello, friends.
Also joining us this week, he's back. He's making content again, and as soon as I saw it, we had to get him back on the channel. It's Mr. Hooves of Doom. How you doing, brother?
Pretty good. It's been a long time since I've been on.
It has been a hot minute, but when I saw that you were working your way through Clan Rats, you laid out your Skaven army. It's not as big as some of your armies, that's for sure. Like by your counts, you had what, 4,000 points, right?
Yeah, it's pretty small.
Right. By the standards of a lot of your armies, that's actually like a pretty modest collection. And I was watching it going, you need this, you need this, you need this. Like you've got a good start for a verminous horde.
True.
So, you know, but I thought we've got to get Hooves back on. We've got to revisit the Skaven, talk about where they are. Are they changed? Are they still the big bogeyman? And where do we want to see them go in the future? But first, let's do normal stuff. Tom, your job. What do you got?
Nothing.
No, it's pretty much. It's you're
Like,
not far off.
like rumor engine.
Yeah, it's an 8-pointed cast star. It's probably from the Flamey guys.
Right. Okay. Done. So
Like they're just taking
the
pictures
new
of
Siege
Warcry
models.
dudes. No,
Oh,
I
okay.
think it's
Oh,
from,
okay.
yeah, like because we had the Spire Tyrants guy last week. It's probably.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, no one understood that we were joking that it was a Stormcast thing. Like, or not, no one. Many people did understand, but like I got multiple comments afterward of like, I don't think you guys are right. I don't think it's really a Stormcast holding the helmet. And I was like, yeah, man, that's the joke, dude. It's improv.
Yes, and
Right, exactly. But anyway, this one looks like it's a flamey rocky thing inside clearly a little 8-pointed cast star, but it's not exactly the 8-pointed cast star. The little points are kind of tilted sideways
Right.
like little flames. So you've got a flame in a chaos flame insignia. And then we know the other one of the two Warcry warbands we're missing is the Scions of Akshi or whatever the heck they're called. Igniters. I don't have the book around, so I don't. You know what I'm talking about. So that's what it is.
Sure.
There you go. It's fine.
It's fine. It's all fine. We have Kill Team, another box coming out, another starter.
Yeah,
That's a thing.
sure. I looked and I wasn't interested. It was all the Tau I don't like.
Yeah, and it's like, and it's they're thinking it's going to be limited stock as well.
Sure.
So like, if you want it, get it. Now that said, like we thought that Warcry might be limited, and you can still pick up those starters. So whatever. Like maybe not. Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows indeed. I mean, I think what it says either way is, let's say it's limited stock, okay, which
Sure.
is like possible.
Yep.
It tells
Yep.
me that as long as Kill Team keeps being popular and keeps selling, they're gonna keep making different starter boxes, right? Like they'll just keep
Right.
using this opportunity to like roll out a new starter box and have two different factions, and there you go. And actually, I'm not sure I hate that, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you'll notice that it's basically a year apart.
right. Like this actually got me thinking about this. So I want to throw it over to Hooves here real quick for this. Hooves, as a
Yep.
collector of all boxes, more or less. Okay. Everything AOS and 40K.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Right. I think back to like the stale starter boxes of past editions, right? I mean, we all remember the famous Bretonia Lizardmen box, right? This
Yeah.
has to be the the box of boxes. And you know, we all have a nostalgic love for that, but it was goofy. It like it makes me wonder, like, is this a better strategy rather than having a static starter box? You have one that's kind of limited, and you bring out a new one with different factions each year. As long as there's no like limited edition models in there, right? As long as it's using the range, just the existing range, that actually seems like a really good strategy. I mean, what's your thought on it?
No, I mean, I think it's a pretty solid idea. I bought the last starter box, and when you only have two armies, you don't know how many people are going to actually want that, or are interested in getting those things.
Right.
Yeah, it's nice to have a lot of diversity, to kind of constantly go through these things. Maybe next time they make a starter box or something that you're interested in. I like the fact that the terrain is different.
Yeah,
so
sure.
It's a completely different box. It's not just a repackage. But at the same time, as a collector, it's also super annoying because I can't buy them all. And
you have to spend more money.
I know. And for me, like the biggest thing is there's no transparency about what boxes are limited and what will stay forever, right? So there are things like a Carrion Empire and Loon Curse, which just sold out immediately.
Right, just
Whereas
like boom, flash of the pan, right?
And there's 40K boxes that came out in October last year. They're still available. You can still get them, so it's hard to kind of know, and that's a little annoying. But overall, I do think it's nice to just have a variety of things. I mean, you don't need to be super pressured into getting that one box. It's a good deal, but there's another one coming down the pipeline, not too far in the future. So.
Right. I kind of thought about the same thing for Warcry. It could be cool, especially as they expand like additional factions, more of the base game, like if they added Skaven in, or Beastmen, or whatever. Which by the way, both of which should be in there once they expand into the rest of Chaos. Absolutely, Skaven and Beasts of Chaos have just as much justification to be there as Ironjaws or Stormcast, right? So yeah, cool. But I thought about that'd be a cool way to introduce other starter sets there, right? Other war bands there. So, yeah. What were you gonna say, Tom? I'm sorry, I interrupted you there when you got a thought about it.
No, I was just gonna simply say that, just to point out, this is something that we talked about when I was hype, when we were kind of spitballing the possible futures. One thing we talked about was the idea that these could be, that the boxes themselves, a year. Let me say it this way: a yearly update of a starter with seasons, with different factions and stuff like that. Like we talked about, maybe this round is all chaos oriented, and then next season is all the new stuff is all order oriented, or all chaos, or all destruction, or all death, and then you'll get cards for the other miscellaneous, other stuff around, maybe.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. I think I hope that happens. Or conversely, I would love to just see them do some of the starter boxes like they did for Kill Team for Warcry, right? Where it's X little pieces, basically a warband plus maybe plus a piece of terrain. Good to go. I think that'd be cool. I don't want to see them stick unique stuff in there. I always hate that. That was a thing I really didn't like about the Kill Team starter boxes. Not the biggest deal in the world, but stop paywalling those kind of weird cards or whatever. They'd in 40K it was the stratagems. I'm not sure we need them here. I don't know what they would do. There's nothing else they have access to in this game to do that with.
The cards, technically they've been doing it with the terrain stuff. The cards for the the shattered domain stuff are paywalled in the actual battlefield box.
Aren't the you're talking about the War Scroll rules?
Yeah, no. So no. So you know how they have cards that you can flip up to determine scenery arrangement.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
So if you buy the Shattered Temple one, they have cards in there that are just Shattered Temple, and then a mix of that in the starter box.
Oh.
And then they have one like that. They have cards like that for the graveyards as well.
Yeah, sure. That's my authoritative response.
But
that's not a real thing.
But I mean, it is, though.
Pictures of terrain laid out on a board are not real.
It's not something that appeals to you, but it does appeal to some people.
I understand. I'm just saying that's not a thing. It can appeal to you all you want. You don't need it. You don't need that to play the game. Like there's no rules advantage to that, right? There's no inequity that's generated by that happening, which is the concern from Stratagems. Yeah?
Sure.
Like this is just like, oh, I guess we'll just have to use our imaginations for half a second to set up this terrain in some different way. Oh no. What will we do? But there's no picture. We're lost. Set adrift on a sea of confusion.
Some of us like to use the card spins.
Hey, use the cards. I'm not against people using the cards. I'm just saying, like, I don't think there's anybody who's there just, like, gnashing their teeth. Well, maybe there is. If you're gnashing your teeth in the wind at your lack of how to set up a graveyard because you didn't buy the new version of the graveyard, go ahead and drop that in the comments. I'm interested on your feedback as to why you feel you need those pictures of buildings.
So he can mock you, too.
Hey, I'm just saying. I would like to know. Maybe you're right, Tom. Maybe this is a huge problem and I'm undercutting the community.
I am not saying it's a huge problem. Don't put words in my mouth. What I'm saying is, you said there's nothing that is paywalled, and I said that's not true.
Fair enough. Fair enough, counselor. All right, so, yeah, so that new stuff. Good things. How about that Tithe 2? We got part 2 of the Bone Tithe video. Did everybody watch that?
Yep.
I am excited for an entire season where we're all going to be able to make bone jokes. Like that's what they've done here, right? This is just they're setting us up for just months of bone jokes. That is all we've done. And frankly, I couldn't be more happy about it. So
I know my wife is going to be tired of me making jokes about bone tithes. That's all I'm saying.
But there's so much low-hanging fruit there that I'll leave on the vine. All right, I'm going to go over to Hooves instead. So did you watch the video, Hooves?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
All right, can we agree all together that this puts to rest any notion that this guy talking, etc.?
Yes. It's simply not.
Based on what I've read on Twitter, absolutely not. But yeah, I'm not sure. I would probably say no. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he says, I was born in a city like this. I died in a city like this. In life, I was a general. In death, I am an emperor. Right? That's kind of the talk there. And he basically says how they march around to cities, and they say like, "Hey, pay your bone tithe," and either people walk out with apparently giant plates of bones, or they get their city razed to the ground. Right, and then they take the bones.
And the tithe is collected.
Yeah,
right.
Sure. So cool story. And we got I assume the guy talking is the guy in the picture, like the guy in the video who's like hunched over with the big hood, the candles on his back, and that weird staff, right?
You mean like Kemmler?
Do you think really that's where you're going? Wizard with hat?
I mean, maybe, because like if you saw like it's. So it has the staff with like the heads hanging, like it's a bunch of rumor engines. I don't know if you caught that or not. Like it's it's the tombstone and all that stuff. I mean, maybe this is Wizard with Hat and he's coming to collect the bone tithe.
I'm personal vote now, and after this, I'm more convinced this is just some new character. Hooves.
It's a new character with the same name.
Oh, okay. Pulling the double cross. It's a 3-card Monty here.
I have no clue, really. Right. We'll find out.
Yeah, Tom.
I mean, it could be like I'm not saying it has to be Kemmler. I'm just saying that it's a Kemmler-like character. Like it's a necromancer leader character. Like it's a normal dude walking around. Like I'm not saying that this. Like I don't think he's a Mortark.
No, I don't think so either. It doesn't feel like that. No part of the story has felt like it's referencing that, right?
He's a dude.
Yeah, which great. I would love it if it was just some new interesting character and he was separate from Nagash and he was just like when he walks out to like the double suns, you see, right? When he
Yeah.
says, I was born in a
Yep.
city like this, and the doors open, you see, like, the Shaiish purple sun,
Yep.
but then you also see, like, the bigger, I assume, Haish regular sun. So,
Maybe.
like, I assume that's what's going on there. But, like, I would love it to just be a new person who's actually just interesting and has a new story to tell us. Fantastic.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Very good. And by the way, you can bring back a Tomb King-ish-esque faction, as I still think these are going to be reminiscent of, without having Cetra. You don't need. You just have a new guy. It's okay.
Okay, here's the deal. Yeah. So when we said Tomb King stuff, like, we had said this, but I want to, like, put a pin on this now. When this, like, it is a non-European undead army that is skeleton focused and has strong shooting.
With pseudo, like, I would assume you'd say Egyptian or that kind of, like, pan area ties because of the little stones.
Like, the whole point being, yes, it's non-East or it's non-Western.
Sure.
Like, so it will likely blend some aesthetics from, like, Egyptian and then like Middle Eastern, maybe like somewhere in Eurasia. Like, I suspect some kind of mix of aesthetics so that you can't really pin it down to any one thing. Sure. So when we talked about like this being Tomb Kings reimagined, that's what we were talking about. We're not talking about, like, it's just Tomb Kings 2.0. That's not what this is.
No.
And we never intended it to be understood that way when we called that.
Right.
But undoubtedly there will be tombs and potentially kings of some sort.
This is true. This is true.
Yeah, maybe.
There will definitely be tombs. There's an emperor, so there's probably kings, right? That's kings report to emperors. That's how this works. So, you know, in the workplace hierarchy, in the org chart of undead armies, I get this. Yeah, look it up in your personnel files. No, okay. So it was a cool video. It told us, again, not much except of what things aren't. Told us kind of how these people operate. The soldiers look cool, right? You kind of saw the silhouette of the soldiers, who I thought looked pretty awesome.
Do we have any idea how many videos there are in this series?
No. It ends with just even coming soon, right? Like, we have no dates, nothing. And soon can mean a large number of things with GW. So I'm not sure what to make of that.
True.
I personally hope we get, like, I would love to see one of these videos, like, trot out a week for the next month. I think that would be awesome. And then, like, bring it out in October.
Good. Yeah, also October, eh? Mm-hmm. I mean, they often have, like, a pretty big reveal in January and December. Or January, I guess. But
yeah, sure. The question is this taking, like, is this going to end up, was this supposed to basically be the Beast of Chaos release? Right, which was kind of like September last time.
I think
this got pushed.
Oh.
That's what I'm saying.
No, I think, I don't know. Maybe. Like, you're talking about the same time slot.
Yeah, time slot.
My critique was that, no, like, this is going to be a major release. This is not going to be a minor.
No. I just meant, like, clearly they have kind of, they work out a schedule and they don't want their releases to kind of overlap on each other, right?
Right.
Sorry, everyone. So, yeah, I mean, my hope would be, or my question, I guess my next question is, are we going to just learn what this is formally in a week and a half? Or whatever it is. Week and a half, 2 weeks? 2 weeks. 2 weeks, sorry. Or, no, is it a week? How long away is it? God, it's a week away.
A little early. Yeah.
It is a week to the day, because it'll be next Wednesday. Good God. I'm completely off track because, like, I have everything packed up. I had to prepare everything for Nova since I'm going to Nash Con this weekend. So, like, I've been spending the whole week prepping and stuff like that and getting everything ready to teach, everything packed up for that, because I'm going to go to Nash Con, stay there for the weekend. I'll come back. I'll be home for, like, basically 48 hours and then have to get back in the car and drive to DC, right? So it's going to be a busy week. Busy week.
I'll bet Kathy is super stoked.
Thrilled, even. Yeah, very excited to have me gone. Get out of the house, I think is what she said. Get thee gone. No, but anyway, yeah, what will we see at Nova? That's the question. Do they actually give us the answer to this? Could be.
Yeah. Like, yeah, this is a Nova release.
I think we get a Nova teaser that only partially answers the question, and then it keeps rolling from there.
That's what I think too. I think Nova's too soon.
Yeah. They're going to give us more. We'll be able to infer, like, kind of what this is next week, I suspect. But they're not going to, like, they're not going to give the whole game away, right? We're not, like, they're not pulling back to be like, and here's the new model range. That's not what's going to happen.
No.
I mean, presumably the other two battles will be coming out before this. Yeah.
Maybe. I bet one is before, like, you're saying, like, the cities and the Ironjaws.
Yeah.
Either yes, they're both before. Like, they could stack those two week after week, or maybe even the same week.
I'm calling that's going to be the week after Nova.
Okay, sure. Like, yeah, those could both be soon, or those could be, you know, sort of set apart by a week or a couple weeks or something like that. Because there's no models with them, maybe, other than perhaps if they do end the spells or terrain, which is still a big question mark. Personally, I'm hoping for no terrain for Ironjaws. Please, no terrain. Can we just not get terrain? I'm super happy not bringing terrain with my Ironjaws. Let me be in my bubble. Nova is bigger, Jack. He asked what's bigger, LVO or Nova. Nova's bigger. Okay. So, just like, I guess depending on, like, there's probably a couple ways to slice that. Like, tournament-wise of AOS, I think LVO was actually possibly bigger than what Nova is this year, but as a whole convention, Nova's bigger. Anyways, so, yeah, cool.
With that, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. So I think that's all we have on the tithe, and Nova's coming up in a week. That's when the reveal show is, next Wednesday, 7 p.m. We'll do our standard live show right after that. And Nash Con is this weekend, and I'm very excited to go down there.
Raffle tickets are available for Nova and for, like, the Super Titan that Vince and them painted.
Yes.
So get in on it, folks. $8 a ticket.
I will drop the link down below. Somebody is walking home with a Warlord Titan painted by CK Studios. So that's like myself and Caleb and Justin and Devin and Sam Lenz. All of us did work on this at different times. It was a huge, massive effort. Yeah, I mean, like, believe me, this was a fun bit of project management to have 6 different artists working on a singular thing and have it all actually, like, work. Like, it looked like it was done by one person. But somebody's going home with that many $1,000 Titan for $8. So
When are you buying yours, Vince?
my raffle ticket, I can't.
No.
No,
you're Titan.
Oh, my Warlord Titan.
Titan.
Say, I am foreboding from winning the Titan. You do realize that, right? That would raise some serious questions. I think they might get a little suspect on that.
Nova.
No, I'll tell you this, Tom. Painting a Warlord Titan, even as little as I did, and to be fair, I did the least work, honestly. Okay, that wasn't intentional. It was just schedule availability and like where pieces could be around the country and world. Even like the amount I worked on, I was like, nope. Nope. This is insane. It's insane. It's like that broke me of it right there. That was the sticking my finger in a light socket of wanting to do that. I'll stick to these guys. Like these guys are just right. This is the right size Titan back here. We don't need them any bigger.
So like you wouldn't do it? Like as the crowning work of your sister's army?
No, I would not. Why did you buy me a Warlord Titan for Christmas, Tom? Thanks.
I mean, I'm just wondering.
No, I would not like that. It's too much. It's just too much. It really is like it's, you know, the desert's hot. Everybody knows that. Go walk in the desert for a couple hours without water, and then you know the desert's hot. You know the Titan's big and complicated, and then you paint the thing, and you're like, no, this is insane. He has every toe has multiple plates, Tom. Toes. Okay? It's not a single toe piece. There are multiple pieces to the toes. If there are multiple pieces on toes, the rest of him is just an utter nightmare. So there you go.
I've raised Kathy's ire in the chat.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, my wife is watching and has just officially put the kibosh on it. So there you go.
Well, you could like put it on top of the case, and so he's looking over your shoulder for every show.
I'm pretty sure he would just crack that case. He would just crush it. But yeah. Anyway,
he would just crush it, Vince. He would.
I would. It's very fun. No, I'm good, man. All right. So other. Let's move on to our other things. I think that's all our news. Anything else I'm missing?
No, don't think so.
All right, cool. Then let's go to pick of the week. Hooves, you're on the spot, buddy.
Uh-oh.
Drop that hot pick of the week.
Now, don't worry. I brought a prop. It's just a sheet of paper, but it'll help me get my point across. So, the Rolling Bad podcast, Age of Sigmar. All right?
Nice.
That's my pick of the week.
That's awesome. I've never had anybody bring a printout. You're batting 1,000 here, buddy.
Yeah, I printed it off at work. So, it's based out of Albuquerque, just a few hours away from where I am. There are 3 fine young people that are running that podcast, and Ryan Taylor's kind of my regular gaming guy when he has a chance, and he's part of that crew. So I just thought it'd be a good time to try to promote them as much as I can. And he and his wife just had their first baby boy this month, so congrats to him. And it's a pretty good little podcast. I always enjoy it. It's always a good laugh. And it's kind of a good kind of casual and competitive mix, basically. So you have a kind of a spectrum of opinions, which is nice to see.
Nice. I dig it. Good selection. I will link their podcast down there. They are all good dudes, and I'm pretty sure all of them are going to be out at Nova. So I think I'll see them in about a week.
Yeah, you'll definitely see Bill. He'll be there, I think.
Yeah, I think Bill will be out there.
Yeah.
I guess if he just had his son, he might not be coming out a week later for Nova. That's probably yeah.
Yeah, you probably won't see Ryan.
Probably not. Yeah. All right, Tom.
So, I'm not one to stir the pot.
Oh, we all know where this is going, Tom. It had to be somebody's pick. I appreciate you falling on the sword.
And so, I don't even know where to start with this.
We will put the Halo video in the description. That's what you're about to reference. I'll link it down in the description. No more explanation is necessary other than when clickbait goes wrong. That is all. Yeah. I'll link it. And we cannot put anybody on direct blast.
Okay, here's the deal. Halo did some masterful work.
Yes.
That's what I want to say. I'm not interested in mocking or jeering at another content producer.
Especially someone who crushes us in by any measurement, sure.
Yes, absolutely. I'm not interested in that. Not interested in putting them on blast. But I do like the funny. And this video is funny.
That it is. And I you know what I wish? I hope that someday, Tom, this little show we do is successful enough that someone makes a greatest clips video of us being morons. Or you know what I mean? That would be, I think, my favorite thing.
You know what? That wouldn't be real hard.
No,
just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah, it's a target-rich environment, that's for
right.
sure.
Right.
But that would be, so no, I just dream of being successful enough to be made fun of. Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. You dream that we're successful enough that people will make fun of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's gonna be a while.
Yeah. There you go. But yes, I will link it. It was a masterpiece of a video and very funny. So I will drop that down below. All right. For myself, I am going to have an unusual pick of the week that is completely self-serving. Okay, I'm just gonna be completely self-serving for a moment, which is to say, for those of you who are regular White Dwarf subscribers, if you've gotten your most recent issue, they have a great article section in there on last year's Golden Demon Winners Challenge, and they showed all the dioramas that people did for it, and they included mine in the magazine, which I was very happy with. I was happy with the piece. It isn't a thing I actually was allowed to share for a really long time, and one of the reasons I'm mentioning it is because not just I'm proud of it and it's cool, but also because they took the way better photos than I ever do of anything I've ever painted, and I'm like, oh. Wow, I literally, like, somebody sent it to me and said, hey, this is really cool. Check it out. Did you know this was in here? And I was like, one, no, so thank you, because it's like the day it came out. And two, that looks better than it does in reality. Like, their photo people are wizards. Absolute wizards. They make models look so good. So I just wanted to give a big thanks to that. And yeah, say, if you've got the White Dwarf, check it out. You don't go out and buy a White Dwarf to look at that. That's silly. But if you're in the game store and a White Dwarf is open, hey, flip through it. Look at it. There you go. Then put it back on the shelf and don't buy it. That would be the appropriate amount of effort. There you go. Okay. All right. So let's move on to some hobby time. Hooves, how goes the great painting of the Verminous Horde, my man?
It's a challenge, Vince. Sometimes you encounter models that are just, so detailed. You just can't really justify, you just can't bring it to life the way you want. And I've really been struggling on my current project here. It's just kind of a nightmare. And of course, the models I'm referring to are giant rats.
No. Well, there's so much space to play, Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's actually been good. I painted 20 clan rats last week. My first painting that I've done really since February. I literally spent from like March through to the end of July just assembling my giant pile of gray, or all my stuff that was unboxed or completely just on the shelf for years and years. So all that's assembled, it's all ready to go, and now I'm painting, and I hope to get through about 68 giant rats this week. That's my plan. Pretty easy, not too bad.
No, I mean, admittedly, they are very quick paint jobs, and like if you're contrasting it up, that's like a 2 paint job probably. So yeah, absolutely. Let me answer Jeremy's question real quick, which he said, is Nash Con worth going to if you aren't signed up for anything? I think all the spots have now sold out again for Nash Con. I believe as of today, but you could always reach out and see if there's still a spot if you want to spend the whole weekend. But either way, there are some exhibitors. It is a convention, albeit a small one. It's a cool time to hang out. My answer is it worth going to if you aren't signed up for anything? Yeah, if you have to drive like less than an hour. That's like, otherwise there's not a huge amount of stuff to do. All right, Tommy, what's your hobby time, buddy? What are you working on? Tom, you're on mute. Don't forget you muted yourself. You're talking and you're on mute.
I am working on
for your meeting bingo. For all those who spend their day in conference call meetings, we just filled out a square in meeting bingo. I think you're talking on mute. Go ahead, Tom.
Fantastic. I am working on my Warcry Terrain set. There's nothing I like to do more than paint terrain. Like, it really is this cathartic, happy space for me. And I am literally highlighting skeleton bones right now on the Warcry kit. And I love it. This is a wonderful kit, and I really wish I could paint like a mountain of this terrain.
Okay. Right on. Cool.
So, yeah, it's really nice.
Well, this has been a productive week for me. Finished up that display board. Got it all good and ready to go. Piece of crap. There will be a video on it. It was part of the challenge. I recorded like a lot of the process. Where the thing was hours and hours and hours of work, but like I recorded a good hour of content out of that that's made into a video. I finished up the King of Ecstasy from Creature Caster, shared him out there. That guy's a lot of fun. He's going to be coming with me to Nash Con. He's my summoned in keeper if my other two are still somehow alive. So if in other words, if I'm playing like a Stormcast player, and it's just like a depravity-a-thon. Oh. Or like maybe if with my Slanesh, like I run into somebody who's running like a very Warherd or Dragon Ogre centric Beasts of Chaos army. The depravity! So then, if I can start bringing in those extra keepers, he'll be along for the ride. So I did all that. I started assembling some of the models. And also, I too assembled Warcry Terrain. And for those of you two can't see this because you can't see me. But like for those of you who said you can't build Warcry Terrain that's taller, I say you can. So this is 4-story Warcry Terrain. And yes, there's still more. This isn't like everything in the box. I still have at least 3 other good-sized pieces besides this. And not to mention all like the scatter terrain and the big head and everything else. But this is, you can see, like it's pretty sizable. As I built this whole thing, the bell's up there in the middle. It's got a little platform way up here, 4 stories up that they can get to. That platform, by the way, in case you're curious, is a full foot off the ground. So that's somebody gets up to that. I hope you got flight. Otherwise, you're going to be chasing them down for a little while. And every level has platforms. So when I assembled the Skaven Models, I didn't use the sticks. Okay.
Right.
And I realized that a bunch of this Warcry terrain is like just boards. Like there's a lot of platforms that are just boards. And I said to myself, well, now we've got a reason to get those boards out. So I busted out all the Skaven Model boards. Piece of advice, if you too didn't use your sticks for your Models, you can make all sorts of extra platforms and extendy bits and extra levels on this stuff. So I have like a whole bunch of extra platforms built here for models to stand on that are big enough for them. And like the rules state that like as long as the center of the platform has to be like an inch, and the center of the edge of the base can hang off as long as the center of the base can fit squarely on, and blah 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 blah. So like I built them all to that specification, and yeah, so big giant piece of Warcry terrain. There's a bunch more behind me, and so that was that. Put that together, and since I finished up a Keeper of Secrets equivalent, it was time to start on a Keeper of Secrets. So I also have been working on my new Keeper of Secrets, and she's going to be very different, very like cold skin color and sort of this crimson red armor, but she'll still end up in color scheme with everybody else with the hints of purple and teal and that kind of stuff. So, and I use the Shellaxy head because it's like the most feminine head with the normal Keeper body. So there you go. Oh, also I gave her a full chest. I modeled like I made her completely female. So. Nice.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, there you go. Because figure I gotta have like that'll put me at 6 Keepers of Secrets when I finish her. Not like there's one. I have 7 that I've done, or I'll have 7 that I've done, but one is part of a diorama, so I can't count that one. So I have 6 keepers. That's what's important. I'll probably do a 7th converted out of a Gorgon, because why not? That just seems fun.
Yeah, that's
cool. You have the models, and it's not like you're ever going to use them.
No, because I already have like 3 Gorgons assembled. So like, what the hell do I need more of them for? It's fine. I got the extra Gorgons from the Beast starter box, so there you go.
Yeah.
It's a good starter box. I still stand behind that purchase. That Gorgon, such a great model. Incredible for bits. Like the best Gorg great, Ungor great, Shaman's great. Love that starter box. The Gorgon, not so good right now, but still useful for a lot of conversions. So there you go.
Sure.
Yes, reaching 6 keepers is Slanesh's perfect number, and yes, as Stead, that is the appropriate thing. And somebody might say to themselves, but Vince, you've got all this stuff. What happens when they nerf Slanesh and they hurt your summoning and they do all these things? And my answer is, what?
That doesn't mean anything to him.
Yeah, no. You don't paint 6 Keepers of Secrets because you're trying to edge shoot the rules here.
The meta.
Yeah, that's not what this is. W. Soren, yeah, I painted the King of Ecstasy. I shared him last weekend. He's done. Okay. So now I have like the Queen and the King, and then all the other. I have all the variants. So basically, there you go.
He has all the everything.
All the everything. When it comes to keepers, yes, that's right. Except for the old keeper model, which I will never own. And if anyone gave me, I would melt. I would melt it into slag. That would be what I would do. I would. What's that?
He's so cute, you know?
He's really not. It's terrible. It's the worst. That model should be erased from history, forgotten about, written out of the books.
Vince is the equivalent of a flat earther with regard to the original Keeper sequence.
Correct. Yes, it's never existed. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Tristan said, when you summon a keeper, do you pick a different one each time? Yeah, I try to. It's more fun that way, right? Like, because it's different keepers showing up to keep on in the fight. It's more interesting. How many can you fit in one standard list? I mean, realistically, 2 is the correct number for an actual functional list. But you can do 3, or if you're talking like just maxing keepers, you can fit 4 in there and still have like a legal list. But I mean, it's a terrible list. Even 3 isn't very good, I think. But there's a couple variants that are okay.
Oh, I'm sure Slaanesh will do just fine.
I mean, we'll see. There are, I think 5 of us playing Slaanesh this weekend at Nash Con. Is it 6?
It is.
Oh, there you go. You know me, Tom. Really taking that, really just following that edge shooting, buddy. That's what I'm doing. Chasing the meta. That's me.
It made me sad. I really wish I could have made it because there were no Fireslayer players there.
It's shocking.
Like, there was like that. There just none of them showed up, and I'm just like, I have all of my models right over there. Yep.
Well, there you go.
Sad.
So be it. At any rate, let's get into the topic, shall we?
Yep.
All right. Let's talk about Skaven. And I want to actually start with something we didn't really do last time. Because last time when we talked about Skaven, we just kind of started with the book, right? And we said, okay, here's what they are now and here's what they have. But since we've got a scholar, a historian, a legitimate scholar on the show. Yes, Tom, that was a backhanded slap at you. No, both of you are academic scholars of history. It's funny. I thought it would be fun to actually talk about a little of the history of Skaven and kind of how they've always played and why that's led to a challenge. So, Hooves, you've been playing for a long time. When did you first pick up your Skaven models? When did you first get into them?
Yeah, so I mean, I had a buddy named Joe. I had early college years, early 2000s. Had a good group of people that we all played. They all played Fantasy and 40K. Pretty solid but small little group of friends. And Joe played Skaven. He's a good guy, but life happens, and he had to leave the hobby. So I basically bought his army from him and another good friend that also played Skaven that I kind of joined on to the collection. But that's basically where it began for me. And a lot of my armies start that way. It's one of the reasons I don't try to kind of cycle through things on eBay and things like that. Like, they have kind of an emotional piece for me. So the few painted models that I had at this point were all painted by Joe. It's kind of an interesting little collection. It's kind of sporadic, little bits and pieces of everything, but nothing too coherent yet. But that's basically where I started playing with them a bit, off and on. I have too many armies, and one of the symptoms of that is that you own a lot, and you kind of know enough about each one to kind of function, but you're never kind of the expert of them.
Sure. So I think one of the interesting things about Skaven, and I'd like to get both of your takes on this, because I think, like, one, Skaven have a huge model range, right? They've just gotten more and more and more models over time, and to the point where we've just built up to this ridiculous model range because they haven't really had any culls. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, it's a fine answer.
Yeah, I didn't say it. I didn't say it.
It's fine. That's a reasonable point, like, because. Yeah. There's a couple models that were shed off, right, in the switch to the new book. Like, we lost the Poison Wind Mortar, whatever they got introduced with Islands of Blood and stuff like that. But ironically, we lost good plastic models and had to go back to metal ones because those Island of Blood molds weren't available anymore, which is really a shame because, like, the engineer out of the Warlock engineer out of the Island of Blood is such a good model. And, like, the old metal one with the 3 clippy hands, I think I have probably 4 of him. Yep. And it's just, they're okay. Like they're not bad.
Yeah.
They were just okay.
Yeah, exactly. And the other kind of gem out of that box is, of course, the Packmaster and the Rat Ogres, which are plastic.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they're plastic, but they're not nearly as good. Yeah.
Yeah, I hacked up so many of those Island of Blood Rat Ogres because, like, when I was restarting my Skaven army, it was when the market had crashed, right? So, like,
yeah.
I was buying those Rat Ogres for $1 a piece. Those plastic Island of Blood Rat Ogres for $1 a piece off eBay from bit stores. I was just like, yeah, boy, bring them in. It was such a good deal. I would just bring them on home. And so, like, now I've got 6 of the original old medals. I ironically have none of the current offering, right? So, you know, the current 2 Rat Ogres that come, I have 0 of that generation. I have 6 of the old metal ones from, like, the 4th, 5th edition time period, and then a dozen of the Island of Blood ones. So,
oh, wow.
that I converted all over the place, right? Like, because they're such a great, they were such an easy model to convert. You could just staple things onto them all over the place. By the way, things I stapled onto them, tons of things from the Gorgon kit. Just saying, that kit, worth its weight in gold for conversions on things like Rat Ogres. Because, you know, like, yeah, the head is, like, way too big. I'm not making that swap. But, like, those arm claw, not the full claws, but, you know, like, they have little arm spiky things and shields on the Gorgon. Those are so perfectly sized to become, like, Rat Ogre shoulder pads. Or whatever, right? They're like forearm wrist guards on the Gorgon. So,
nice.
Just stuff like that. So they've been around. This range has grown larger and larger and larger. And so here's my opinion. There are 2 things that make Skaven, assuming they have a book of some kind where you can, like, field them as a playable army, right? Like, where even an average book is going to make them seem strong.
Sure.
The one, big range that fills a lot of different roles, right?
Yep.
Like, they have casters and melee power and shooting power, and you know what I'm saying? So, like, they just natively play in a lot of phases because that's just the nature of their model range, right? They're not going to make, like,
bench.
Yeah, and a deep bench, right? So they can afford to have, like, 2 versions of that. 2 things that shoot not be very good because they've got 5 other things or 3 other things that are pretty good. And 2, the very foundational core of Skaven, right, is itself one of the most challenging strats to fight against. Let me see if I can unpack what I mean by that. Okay.
I don't disagree with that. It's what I lost to at Adepticon.
Sure.
And 5 on table 2.
Sure.
Yep.
The operational okay, let me flip this around like this. Tom, what's the core theory of, like, what's the theory of the case for how you win games with Daughters of Cain?
You rush forward and like push into their lines.
Right, with probably a synergistically buffed single unit, right? Okay.
Yep.
So they are like turn a hammer into a sledgehammer and then shoot it across the table and explode whatever you touch. That's their theory of the case, right?
Yep.
Okay. Fast and deadly. Cool. Got it. Great. So that's how that army works, right? And it's sort of the operational principle of what the Daughters are all about.
Yep.
You know, and not all armies have such clean things like that. Stormcast has a big range, but I mean, I would argue right now the most commonly seen one is like Shootcast, right? And the theory there is drop from the heavens and shoot all their things that matter, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And then just like win on attrition or something like that, basically, right?
Well, and then then depending on how the Shootcast is oriented, they can actually like relocate by picking up their stuff and redeploying it.
Sure. Yeah. Which is really often like assuming your sort of alpha and secondary strike shots go where you want them to, you know, especially if you're on like the back of a double turn. Hopefully you've killed everything of value and now you're just like, you're going to relocate to keep your stuff alive, right? And get it out of the way. Okay. Skaven's operational principle is
do whatever you need it to.
No, I would argue Skaven's operational principle is damage comes from the most well-protected things a relatively small number of well-protected models generate all the damage and threat of the army, while a huge amount of non-mattering things gum up and block the way and hold the enemy army at bay. By the way, Change Host has the same strategy. Right?
Yep.
Flood the board with cheap crap that will both take objectives, and I don't care if it dies. It's literally just there to exist. Right?
It's there to be hit in the face and blow up.
While my things that actually hurt you are standing well back, well protected, certainly immune to melee in most cases.
Right.
Well protected often against shooting, right? And they have the magic power to rebuff most armies' magical threat. Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, Hooves, what do you think? Does that sound like the right theory of the case?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, they also have like a lot of stuff that's just kind of randomly generated, in terms of like mortal wounds and weird abilities, and that makes them highly difficult to predict, which is a helpful tool as well.
Yeah, you can look at a warp lightning cannon and know that, like, in most rounds, you're not going to take 11 or 12 mortal wounds, right? That's just not the mean outcome, but that will happen.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that is a potential. Every time those dice are picked up, that is one of the possibilities of what could happen, right?
Yeah.
And that's just a hard thing to plan for.
Every time the hero phase comes around, suddenly another Vermin Lord might be on the table.
Yeah.
From the bell.
Yeah. When you've got such a high variance as to what could be the expected output, I think it makes it more difficult, right, to actively say this thing is definitely the threat that is the number one thing I need to deal with, right?
Yep.
Because certain things can suddenly become threats. Now, obviously, you can make a list, right? You can look around the board and go like, well, those Giselles are bad, and the Warp Lightning Cannon's bad, and the Vermin Lord's bad, and the Bell is bad, and that Grey Seer on foot is bad, and
but how
whatever.
do you prioritize your targets?
Exactly, because they all can be very randomly,
bad.
Yeah, they can all be randomly bad or highly effective. Yes. Okay. And this is, by the way, has always been the way they've played. This is literally, like, I'm sharing a little piece of Skaven art that you guys can't see down in the bottom corner just for fun. I mean, if you're watching it live, you can see it. But, like, my favorite piece of Skaven art, which this was the cover to, like, I don't know, the 5th or 6th edition book or whatever it was. I think it was a 6th edition book, thinking on it. And I really loved this one. I like, Hooves, I think you're a book collector, right? You try to get all the old editions books. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been on a bit of a journey of the same thing myself. So I've got most everything back to 4th. Nothing before that. So, because that was really when I started playing. So I thought I want to get all the army books from that time. So,
Yeah.
But like, in this picture, it's a dude shoving a bunch of clan rats forward, right? Just like, you go out there and die. I will be safe back here with this giant halberd that I'm never, hopefully, going to have to hit anyone with, right? So they have this sort of game plan that just already, like, the very nature of it is the, like, paper to a lot of people's rock, I guess, right? Like, if you're playing Daughters or something, it's a good counter to their rock. They want to run forward and smash, and you're like, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Knock yourself out.
Cool story. I got something for you to hit.
Yeah, like, you go ahead and hit all this stuff, and in the 3 rounds it takes you to chew through all this garbage I'm going to throw in your way, I've killed everything that matters on your side. Right?
Yeah.
So I think innately they're a very difficult army to balance. And it only makes the most recent book more egregious. Right? Oh, there you go. Cinderfall said it was the 5th edition book. Darn it, Hooves, I was right before the show. Because I said, he and I were talking before the show, and I said, I think it's a 5th edition cover, but it might be 6th. I cannot remember. And I was like, and then as I was sitting here, I was like, I'm going to go with 6th. That should have trusted your gut. Trust your gut. Like, they already start with that. And so this most recent book, having unbalanced element as it did, like, too many things that were too cheap, and a really just frankly broken endless spell, meant that all of a sudden, I mean, it was like it was, and I will never think otherwise. So there you go. Um, I have painted the Warp Lightning Vortex and used it in one game in all the games of Skaven I played. I used it once and was like, okay, I can say I did this. I'm never doing this again. This is terrible. So at any rate, um, the uh, the the nature of the book meant that they were just primed to be a threat, right? But I think there's so much more good in the army. I mean, and I think this is the thing. They get boogeymaned because of these builds. But Hooves, what's exciting you about your Skaven? Like, what do you want to build out? What are you looking at with your army?
Well, I'm kind of going back and forth, and I've priced out a few different options. One of the good things about the army right now is that you can really do like 2 or 3 pretty cool builds of completely different lists. And I'm just for the sake of kind of the narrative, I think I'm gonna go like Master Clan heavy. I just had tons of spellcasters.
Nice. So in come the Vermin Lords and the Bells and the Grey Seers.
Yeah.
You're gonna be everyone's best friend.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. I mean, again, I really don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? Like that's fine. You're not. I know you're not trying to make like the tooled tournament list.
No, because I mean, and I play a lot of games with my wife, and you know, I want her to continue to play, and if I absolutely just stomp her into the ground every single time, she won't. So
seems fair. Tom, do you think that so the Warp Lightning nerf happened, and we have seen it in less lists? Are Skaven still the competitive boogeyman, or is it just riding on, like, you know, are they just riding on hate at this point? Have they been replaced in boogeyman status by Slaanesh? Was it actually enough? Are they back in line?
Yes, Slaanesh took the boogeyman status. There's no question about that.
Okay.
And that said, I still think that there is a competitive. I think that there is a fairly hard competitive Skaven list out there, just on points.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. Like, we've certainly seen them show up in you know, top sort of tables or top 10s. That's how I tend to construe it, right? Because as we've said, like, good lists can get you the top 10, but like a lot of luck and player skill carries you beyond that, right? Or you get player skill for piloting a good list gets you the top 10. Additional skill and luck gets you to the top 3, right? There's always a lot of luck in that because you can just have a bad matchup in the 5th round, whereas somebody else got perhaps a better matchup for them or whatever, right? I'm not sure that it didn't actually almost fix them. That's what I'm going to advance. That, like, I think there has been a discussion amongst the Skaven players of, is Warp Lightning Vortex worth taking anymore? Right? And most people seem to come down on the side of like, probably it's still good. You got to pull extra tricks to get it out there. It's more of a defensive thing. I still wish they would just change the rules on it. Just get rid of the double tap. Like, number one. That, I don't know how we changed it and didn't get rid of the double tap. That is the egregious part of it still. The fact that it hits and then hits again. But like what I think is that it was actually closer than we thought with the nerf that happened. Like, I think history is maybe proving that it was closer than I thought it was initially in how correct it was. Okay. Again, I still think it could have gone farther. In other words, let me put it like this. Originally, I thought the nerf was like maybe 70% of what it should have been. Now I'm drifting closer to like, maybe it was like 85, 90% of what it should have been. Does that make sense?
Is that just because they're not on the table, or do you think that just from a number standpoint?
I think just from a number standpoint. I haven't seen LLV's. Admittedly, I didn't go look at LLV's recent stats and shred since post FAQ, and look at how they've the performance difference between before and after. But I would be interested to see that comparison. I just didn't get a chance today to look at it. There are elements of the army that I wish they would just kind of tone down a little more, and then other things I wish they would tone up. You understand what I mean? Like, at this point, I think where they're at is they need a retooling.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Plague Monk's really good still.
Right. Yep. Like, Plague Monks still need to go up and get more expensive. The Vortex probably still needs a slight change to get rid of the double tap. Grey Seer can probably use another 20 points. You know, just little stuff like that. There's probably a Vermin Lord that you could use, like the Warp Seer or whichever one it is. Like, all their names are way too close. Could probably go up another 20 points. Ball Man can go up another 20 points. But, you know, it's close. It's close.
Yeah. It always seems a little weird to me because, you know, it's a strange book in some ways. Because you can read through it, and if you're not really paying too much attention to, like, you know, some of the abilities and some of the spells, the individual unit cards, meh.
Yeah, feel very underwhelming, right?
Right. It's these other combination of abilities that get completely stacked, and then the unit just goes through the roof. So it seems kind of strange for me to continually nerf all the units and leave the characters the same amount of points. But
yeah. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, and this is kind of what I want to talk about, because I want to do some future talk here, right? Of, like, we're going to get another bite at this apple at the end of the year, right? They've said they're gonna, you know, rebalance stuff. I don't think Skaven points will necessarily be changed in that, because that points change is for off cycle books. So, like, that's when Slanesh's points adjustments will hit, right? And, like, at this point, things that I wanted to see happen, Dice just in the comments just mentioned it, which is, like, completely rewriting the Monk's War Scroll. That should have been done with the book. That whole thing should have been trashed. Should be one weapon profile, much simpler. Like, give them a special thing, like, on a 6 to hit, they do a thing. Great. And that's it. I don't need, like, 6s to hits and 6s to wound and 4 different generations. Didn't need all that. Their stupid trash battle line. Like, we don't need it. It's too complicated. Magic, so like, just real quick, let me go down this rabbit hole. Magic the Gathering has a principle, an operational principle about complexity, operational complexity on the cards. And one of those principles is that complexity tracks to rarity.
It's such a good concept.
So, like, commons have a sort of very low ceiling on the amount of complexity they're allowed to have and the interaction of abilities they're allowed to have, right? Because you don't want a common that's insane and very complicated and hard for people to understand, that's going to show up all the time in, like, all these packs. Uncommons go a little higher, rares go a little higher, mythic rares are what they allow to go, like, you know, off the charts, right? And things like planeswalkers and stuff to get real super complicated. Okay, I think we should adopt the same principle as a design princip, right? For AOS units going forward. Battle line units must fit on, you know, the war card. I don't have a war card next to me, but we all know the war scroll cards, right? You know how some of them are foldy cards and some of them are single cards? Yeah?
Yep.
If your battle line unit doesn't fit on this card, stop, redesign, cut. Period. That's it. That's the new rule.
I don't disagree. Like, maybe only put heroes on the foldy cards.
Well, I mean, whatever. Some things might necessitate it, right? Like a big monster could necessitate it because big monsters might have enough rules, right? Because they also have their charts and whatever. I'm fine with that kind of stuff. You could have a hyper elite unit like Storm Fiends, right? Like, I would be at, like, Storm Fiends should absolutely have a flippy card because they got all these different weird weapons and stuff like that. Yeah, cool, great, no issue, right?
Even though they are battle line as well.
Well, you're saying because they're battle line if Scryer.
Yep.
That's a hard call. I'm not gonna hold the same thing for all the battle line if units, okay? But like, if you're just straight battle line, Clan Rats, I guess Plague Monks are only battle line in Pestilence.
Right.
But still, you know, it's
right.
Fair. It's fair. You're right. Cut them. Storm Fiends, simplify them. I'm sticking to my heuristic. No, I mean, you can bend the rule, just don't break it flagrantly, right? As all things. the rules are more of guidelines, Miss Turner, right? That's the point here. Okay. So at any rate, I think that ship has sailed. That was a long diversion, right? But I think that ship has sailed. Like we're not going to get a redesigned Plague Monk scroll, and this isn't happening. Like this is what we've got, and we just all have to deal with that, man. Right?
Sure.
Like until we get the next Skaven book, that's how it is.
Which might be a while.
Sure, I think it's good. Yeah. Like, well, this one took 12 years, so 2007, I believe, was the last time we got a Skaven book. So 2031, when we get our next Skaven book, I'll take my Grav jetpack down to the friendly local game store.
We had a Pestilence book.
That does not count at all.
We had a Pestilence book.
Nope, does not count. It was not a Skaven book. I understand it was a Pestilence book. It was not a Skaven book. Doesn't count.
Such a negative.
12 years. 2031. That's the next go around. So look for updated Plague Monks in 2031. Like I think some of that stuff is sailed, but I think little stuff like fixing double death frenzy. Hey, that's just an FAQ answer away.
Yeah.
Right? That's easy peasy. Fixing stuff like the double tap on the warp vortex. Cool. Easy FAQ, right? Those are things that are design commentary-able. The other option for how stuff could get fixed, and here's what I'm curious to explore with both of you. Skaven is so big, it's about the same size as Legions was. Yeah? Legions is what, 41 War Scrolls? Is that right, Tom? You're on mute, Tom. Talking on mute again.
I think it was 35.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I think it's 35.
Let's say it's tilde 40. Okay, because I whatever. Doesn't matter.
Sure, it's around 40.
Yep. When they had that, they went and did an expansion book. We've seen several different little ways to split that baby, right? In both like the Army of Grief, and we had the Nighthaunt book and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
So could we get a Nighthaunt Skaven book? And if so, you know what I'm saying? Not literally ghosts, not rat ghosts, but like where we take a version of the army and expand.
What you're asking is, are we getting an Eshin book? That's what you're asking.
Well, I don't want to pin it to that. I think that's a potential possibility. But what would we want to see? Is the answer Eshin? Because I have other answers. I have other thoughts too. Okay. But because it could be a chance to go back and fix some of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Hooves, any thoughts? If they did a split book, right? What would you want to see them expand? What deserves the attention of its own book? Or alternatively, if you don't think a whole book, if Nighthaunt's too big, what could get maybe more of a Legion of Grief treatment or something like that? Like, but they can play in that space too, right?
Yeah. I think Tom kind of had the right, most obvious answer. Like that army doesn't exist, even though it's kind of there on some degree of paper. It definitely needs to be fleshed out significantly beyond like the 3 units it has.
Yeah, it is the most underwhelming part of the book. It's the thing you never see other than occasionally a throwaway chaff unit of like Night Runners or whatever.
Yeah, and the concept is cool. I think if I ever played a full Eshin army in the game, I'd be bored because there's not much going on.
Right.
Molder could use a bit of a expansion. I think one of the key focuses that I spent some time today really thinking of is the potential for brand new kits and things like that, because like Legions, I think if they ever revisited these guys as you kind of discussed last week, there will be a significant amount of these models that will be probably phased out.
Sure.
Some will be resculpted in some way, probably, but there's a huge amount of old kits that are kind of old plastic and old metal that could be re-envisioned. So it's they could go a lot of different ways. Like a lot of these armies, and some of the most powerful armies really could potentially see a completely new overhaul in some way.
Yeah. Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, of the concepts, I mean, the thing that interests me the most is probably Eshin, because everyone likes ninjas.
What does that actually like? Look, we all love ninja rats. We all love them. They've got the coolest vermin lord. They've got the coolest assassin characters.
Yeah.
And they're all a bunch of ninjas running around like throwing ninja stars. Super sweet, top to bottom, completely agree. Here's the challenge for that. What's the rest of that army look like?
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to see what it would actually look like.
Because there's 4 war scrolls. Let's assume we've got to get to 10 to have a book. Okay? I understand Ironjaws got by on 7, right? But let's assume we need 10 now as a threshold. What are the other 6 scrolls? What even are they?
More rats with stars?
Right. Yeah, I mean, like, there's only so many ways you can, like, cut Eshin to get to get at interesting concepts. I'm not sure there's much more to unpack there. And when I think about this, I'm not thinking about the rules, because that's not where these books come from, right? Where it would have to come from is somebody in the the sculpting team thought of some new cool ways to takes on this and did enough of them, right? So like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I could see like a trap master.
So like a new hero.
So, yeah, but it would go down the so it could be their form of endless spells, right?
Okay.
Where you could go down some route of like laying traps, and like traps are the endless spells or something along those lines. I don't know. I haven't fully thought it through. Like literally a rat trap.
Sure. What I was just imagining, by the way, Hooves, do you remember Way Watchers in 5th edition? What they used to do in Wood Elves? At the start of the game with Way Watchers, you would pick like a woods, and you would say that woods was trapped. Right? You'd have to notate it secretly on your list. And if somebody went into that woods during the game, then they would the trap would spring on them and do damage to that unit.
Yeah.
And that then prompted, of course, the little halfling archers, the dogs of war, the fighting cocks, right? Lump and croup, who were immune to Waywatcher traps. So that's the road you're going down here, Tom. The second we get traps, you get somebody who's immune to traps. And then you're like, oh no, how much am I paying for this ability?
Well, so I could see going down a road of like poison stuff. So I could see them having like poisoner ninjas. You know, like, I don't know. I'm reaching here. Like, I'm working hard.
You're reaching. Let me. So obviously our awesome audience has thrown some ideas in the comments. So I'm gonna hit you with some of these. Okay.
Hit us.
All right. And I think so. Dice saying sumo rat ogres. No, I'm not down for that. Rat ogres belong in Molder. Don't steal rat. Molder has very few toys as well. We'll get to them in a minute. Don't steal their toys.
I mean, I will say, like, seeing sumo rat ogres would be adorable. Like little chubby cheek. Yeah, it'd be awesome. Continue.
Yeah, they'd look like the Blood Bowl rat ogre.
Yeah. Yep.
Because he's all chubby cheeked. Smoke throwers. I mean, they already do that. The assassins already have smoke bombs. So, smoke bomb. Rat samurai. Oh, so we leave ninjas behind and we get the honorable samurai, which I think is just I think that's just storm vermin that Clan Eshin have hired. You dress them up like samurai, right?
Well, I mean, I will say that storm vermin do kind of have the like Naginata look with their halberds. Like, you could make them very Asian themed, like Nezumi themed, very easily.
All right. But now I want to get to the one that I think actually there's one. So Stone Monk's first idea, I think actually is the winner. Shadow Rat Demons.
Okay.
That's got gas in the tank. Because the Vermin Lords are demons, right? So it's not
Yep.
unprecedented to have demons in the Skaven forces.
Mm-hmm.
And having like perhaps their own children where like the that stiletto wielding madman goes and experiments on some and makes like demonically infused shadow rats. That's kind of a cool idea, right? Like that's they don't have their own demonic forces, right? Like all the other big chaos gods have their own kind of demonic forces, right? The other 4 chaos gods.
Yeah.
But these guys don't. So like I could see the demon lords being like, these living rats are kind of annoying as being the only tool we have in the toolbox. Let's start screwing with that, right?
I like that. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. That's got some interest in it. That could have some some real power because there's a lot of places you could go with that. Yeah, some people have mentioned like introducing Oni like concepts. Yeah, sure. You could bring in like their demonic influence could have that more sort of Japanese mythology feel to it, right? You could just lean into that.
Yeah.
Not in a direct copy way, just in a kind of you could make the faces a little more Oni-ish, the horns a little more short and stubby-ish, right? That kind of thing.
Sure.
I think that's got a good idea right there.
I don't hate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love that.
The as Manswine pointed out, the named character is Master Splinter, who has 4 turtle demons as his bodyguards. Yep, I'm in for that.
Exactly.
Also, Jordan, who had said, "Can we get a geisha rat lady assassin?" Jordan, none of us want that, and let me tell you why. So before this show, to find this picture I have up on the screen right now, I went to my Google. Just went to the Google. And I typed in Skaven. Just literally Skaven. That was my search word. That's it, right? Because I was like, I'll just hit Skaven and look at an image search, and I'll find a cool piece of art to have up on the screen in this little corner we have available.
So you came across the cosplay.
No, the amount of like... the amount of exactly what you think I would have found, okay, in that image search was, frankly, disturbing, okay? Like, there's a lot of people who want to see that same thing, Jordan. A lot. To judge by the amount of, like, female gray seers and assassins and everything that are still rat ladies and very scantily clad that were just in the regular image search. There you go.
Nothing.
Nice.
So let's just probably not do that. We can just glide on by that one. But anyway, no, I think the demon angle is cool. I dig that idea a lot. That could go ahead.
The one thing I really want, definitely, if they ever refocus on this faction, is so they have a Death Master or Assassin, and they've had these types of archetypes in other armies as well, right? And they're always terrible. Like it's a really cool concept, but like they barely can kill like the average Joe character. I would love for them to like rehash that and to do a much better job, potentially, make them actually feared.
Agreed. All right, let me hit you with a couple other expansion ideas here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, of where we could go in the future. The first is Molder could get the same thing as Eshin. And by the way, I think the demon thing there works the same, but that's an even broader palette, right? Because you could just, any mutated weird monster. Like, they could get mid-range size, 4-legged, like, giant rats the size of, like, horses or Dracolions or something like that, right? They were just completely bestial and literally just ran and tore into people. Like, rat ogres are still humanoid, you know what I mean? You could get weird, lumpy monstrosities that are just, like, 7-armed monstrosities or something, just all claws and fangs, like Chaos Spawn-esque type units, like, There's all sorts of weird stuff you could do with Molder. Just
Yeah,
shove any two things together.
Yeah.
You could also play in the hybrid space there as well, because like Storm Fiends experimented with the Molder. They experimented with the Molder Skyer combo.
Yep.
So another half, another piece of this potentially would be a series of crossovers.
Yep. And that's that's really the third idea I'm excited about, which you led right into it. What I think would actually be the great next thing I'd want to see from Skaven and where we'd have the potential here is it could be as simple as like, it could be a whole book, could be a White Dwarf thing, could be a lot of different ways, right? Could come out in an expansion a la Forbidden Power, right? Okay. And that is take two of the clans and shove them together in an interesting way, representing a specific real Skaven city and how it's operating, right? In much the same way we're getting Cities of Sigmar or whatever, right? Or that we got the Defenders of Lethis or the Mortar Forces of Grief, whatever it's called. Yep. One potential for that, I don't know how exactly you do this without new kits, and you just have to really stretch, would be there was a Scryer clan that killed their way into into a Caradhran Overlord Skyport and took it over. Okay.
Sure.
And has all of their airships now, right?
Yep.
And like that would be amazing. That would be amazing to get formal rules, right? Where it was like, they just presented alternate war scrolls for like the frigate and the ironclad, but Skavenized. Buy the same kit. You got to put Skaven on them. They'd probably never do this anymore because it requires too much conversion. But God in heaven, but I love it.
Do you know what the answer is here?
What's that?
Forge World to release the packet, so the PDF of these rules, and then a small set of resin kits for the conversions. So you buy a frigate, buy the Forge World resin pack to convert the frigate into a Skaven ship.
Yep.
And then they release the PDF on the Forge World site for it.
Yes. That's it. You're absolutely right. That is how this happens. Right? If you were going to go down this road, if Forge World AOS group would actually start like making anything that isn't a giant 1200 point ridiculous dragon, yes, that'd be great. I don't know. Hooves, what are your thoughts?
When it comes to the kind of Molder, I have a few different ideas. Forge World has like that giant rat on,
the Warlord on Brood Horror. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love that to be, maybe not that model, but definitely something along that type of idea. Like actually have giant rats that are actually giant.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And maybe even rats riding rats. Like
get on the full rat cavalry. The dream that Skaven has always had. Not since, what was it, in like 4th or 5th edition when you could like you had generic monsters you could buy and put your characters on, right? Like you could just buy a Manticore, right? And you could just mount your characters on it or whatever. Yes, let's return to that. I agree. Thumbs up. Yeah,
I think it'd be pretty cool to have a storm vermin on some giant rats. That'd be pretty hardcore. There's some sort of like mutant rat that's not as big as like a rat ogre, but just kind of a smaller type of item would be kind of interesting. There's a lot that they could do there. I mean, there's a lot of things that we probably couldn't even imagine that they could potentially sculpt up and make kind of real on the battlefield.
Yeah, I mean, Molder's so rich with potential because it's literally like just mutate a thing, right?
Yeah.
And get a new weird Frankenstein-like combination. I want to also point out that I think, Manswine in the commentary had a really good point of like, we all saw that the Space Marine route they're going, right? Where obviously they have the main Space Marine Codex that just came out. Mm-hmm. And then they're doing all these little tiny supplement books. Right, so they're like I think White Scars we know are the first ones getting the treatment, correct?
Yep, that and Ultramarines.
There you go. So like that's another way you could go, have, instead of just doing like a whole build out, we could see a 30K version of that where you, or not 30K, sorry, a Skaven version of that where you've got these little tiny supplement books, right? That are like particular clan build outs or additional expansions or stuff like that. And that would be really, really interesting way to expand big armies like this. By the way, this isn't limited to Skaven. You could do this with armies like legions, right?
Yep.
They've already shown they have a taste for it as they put out the Legion of Grief and Nighthaunt. Like 2 times this thing has been expanded in weird ways, right? But it's all still the Legion of Nagash. So like I think that has a lot of potential. Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
Plus, as we said, they've got to keep. They're going to keep making stuff, right? Like, and just reprinting the same books has a limit, right, on how many times you can do it. So you can't just keep reprinting the Nurgle Codex or the, I don't know, the Khorne Codex shows the, I guess you can keep printing books over and over until you get it right, you know, but there's probably a limit on that for everybody. Yeah, I think that those are all potential. I really want that Scryer Sky clan thing. That would just be amazing.
Well, I mean, I really want the Ironjaws one, the Skybasha clan.
Right.
You know, there's an Ironjaws one in the lore as well. Like the reality is that they could, like, that is 2 obvious build outs of this. You go Ironjaws, and you could do the Grot Scuttlings as well. So you could do a Goblin version of this, you could do a Ironjaws version of this, and you could do a Skaven version of this.
Right.
And have like a bunch of like PDF war scrolls, and then a bunch of like mod kits for the actual frigates and all the airships.
Yep.
And you could.
And by the way, I would fully accept those being in like Forge World resin because they're not going to be the huge seller, right? So they need to be a little. They need to be cheaper. Cool.
Yeah.
It's cheaper to run this stuff off in resin. Do it.
And you could do like a conversion packs. So like a conversion packs where like you could buy a set of brutes with like guns and like pirate, you know, like eye patches and peg legs. Like there's already one peg leg, but a bunch of like bits to convert them all over.
Yep.
And it's you know, it's this really interesting kind of niche product that I think they could breathe new life into some of those product lines.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Cool. Anything else we want to say on potential future expansion? Any other thoughts, gentlemen?
The only thing I was just thinking about ways in which you could maybe adapt the rules to kind of compensate other variations within the army.
Okay.
And you know, when you have like a Space Marine squad, you can take X amount of guns that are, you know, special, right? And you can do the same thing now in Stormcast and Khorne and a lot of other armies. I think it'd be interesting if you could like attach a weapon team onto like your units of clan rats or something like that.
Sure, like you used to be able to do old style, where you could actually burrow some of them in, as it were, or like have them riding alongside.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah, where they just became like, it's an interesting choice they made to make those their own war scroll, and not just make it like a sort of thing that automatically does get put in. But I'm fine with it. It means they get picked off easier, which is good. I did always hate the old rules where it was like you had to kill through 40 clan rats before you could kill, you know, this one thing. Like that is annoying.
Well, they didn't have that tech when they first wrote these war scrolls. That was a tech that was developed later. It's interesting that they decided not to utilize that here, because it would have actually made it a little bit more manageable. And it would give them they would have given them a reason to re-release a clan rat box, because then they could have a bunch of weapon teams in the clan rat box,
right?
And sell a bunch of those. Yeah, I don't know. It's a really interesting insight, and I don't know why they didn't do it. I would have done it if I were them.
All right. So the other thing, the sort of last thing I want to talk about is kind of our hidden gems, or things that, you know, from our initial review or over time, that we think that our sort of opinion has changed on as time has gone along, right? So is there anything in the book, like when the book first came out, one of the big sort of things that was touted was the Warp Seer that was basically invulnerable, right? That was Mr. like 4 up, 5 up, 5 up, blah, 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 infinite saves. And the reality was that dude that isn't actually the version of that guy that ended up getting played, right?
Right.
Whereas some of the things that people said, like, we talked about Acolytes being a real powerhouse. I think they certainly are. I think things like
Yeah.
Vigor Dust Injector, I think people, cottoned onto as being ridiculously good. Um, but are there any other hidden gems in either like equipment or war scrolls or anything like that that over time we think we've come to see that maybe weren't rated in the same way originally, or that have come so as this sort of has changed? Any thoughts?
It's been disappointing to me that we haven't seen more Storm Fiends on the table. That's what I'll say.
Okay.
But that's just probably because the book's so good that people don't have to field them. But it's been sad that they have not showed up at all. Despite the fact that I rate them, I like them.
I agree.
As they are. But it's just sad that they just haven't had any gas.
Yeah, I mean, I think that all of the Vermin Lords have kind of shown they have value. When it first came out, I think people didn't really. I'm not sure everybody necessarily rated like the Warbringer and stuff like that. I think he's proven really really good. I agree with you on the Storm Fiends. I think Storm Fiends absolutely have good gas in the engine. Let me tell you what my hot pick is. Okay, and I think it is far from the best unit in the book. Very far. Very, very, very far.
So Vince is saying this is not competitive, but
No.
it's something.
I am saying I think it is. I think it does have a place in competitive lists. I'm just saying, like, this is a book with a lot of good options. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to show up and be like, oh, guys, the best unit in the book is nobody's playing it. That's not what I'm saying, right?
Right.
The Doom Wheel.
I knew you were going to say that.
The Doom Wheel is underrated.
I agree.
Huh.
It's mobility, the fact that it can drive over chaff walls, the fact that it has a decent shooting attack that with it, that like can actually do some decent damage at range, okay, with both rend and a multi-damage attack. The fact that it can be quite damaging, it can be quite fast through a couple different tricks. And the fact that they redid the Scryer battalions, right?
Yeah.
The engine covens got like actually arranged, I don't know, properly cheaper. Like there was a lot of points increases, right, that we all paid attention to in the GHB, right? But what's really notable is that those engine covens and the way that they were costed all radically changed.
Right.
Radically changed in cost, like to the point where they're actually usable. And the like Doom Wheel engine coven, it's pretty fun. Like it's not bad. And so like those kind of things, I'm not sure that everybody's really looked at the updated pricing for all the Warp Cog stuff and really thought about what could be done there, right?
Sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, because the Whirlblade Threshik is the one that has the Doom Wheels, and it basically gives them an extra 3 inches of move when they just start next to an engineer, right? That doesn't sound like a lot. It's a lot, right? I mean, that's like the biggest deal in the universe when like shamans give out 3 inches of movement to things, and like the more speed is pretty useless, which is the one that if you roll any ones when you're rolling the movement, your opponent gets to move the model. No, you never do that. But the more warp bolts, I would do that every time. Right? Because that's just like you get 2d6 shots, but if you roll a double, you basically are going to wreck yourself. On numbers, you don't kill yourself, but on numbers, you're at 1 wound left. Which is fine. Worth it, because you go to 2d6 shots. And like 2d6, 3 up, neg 1 rend, d3 damage shots. That's real damage. That's real character killing potential for a model that can move over top of other units.
Yeah.
Right? So they try to burrow characters. You can drive over their chaff lines, right? Do wounds in the process, like do mortal wounds to that unit you drove over in the process. More warp bolts and try to blast characters out of the, off the table, right? And you're getting it at that point. You'd be like assuming they're drawing a lookout, sir. You'd be making 2d6 attacks, so an average of 7 on 3s and 3s, neg 1 d3 damage. That can do some real work against your lighter armored characters. If you've got some dudes running around like 5 up, something like that, that's very scary.
Sure.
Which, by the way, I think of things like Slaughter Priests, right? That are like the appropriate. That's exactly the type of model I want to like drive over the Blood Reavers and just zap the crap out of, right?
Yep.
So anyway, I think the Doom Wheel is underrated. That's my take home point. I think it's got a lot of potential, especially in a world where people like to burrow little 5-wounders. So you can't chaff a Doom Wheel, and I think that's real potential. Tom, any other potential call-outs that you think are underrated at this point?
Nope. For me, it's those Scryer units that aren't seeing play. So the Doom Wheel and the Storm Fiends.
Yeah.
Yep. And I have some in a box right up there, and I look forward to putting them on. Putting all that together and having fun with the kids in smaller games, because I think that they're fun and they're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to relook at those. Definitely.
I've got 2. I've got a third one still, just like parts left over, like that I haven't put together. It's not parts; it's the whole Doom Wheel. But from when I bought the Carrion Empire box, and I've just thought like, sometime I'll get kind of bored and be like, all right, let's make a Doom Wheel. They are an annoying model to put together and paint. I'm not gonna lie, like they are sub-assembly city, which is what's annoying about them. So, but that's fine. Whatever. All right, cool. Any final thoughts we've got on Skaven? Here's my sort of, I'll kind of give my little summation here going forward, what I think. I think we're going to continue to see them as a strong army. My hope is that we get the retooling and not just a nerf in the next one. I think there is a lot of potential for other units that, just like with some points adjustments, could be interesting. Ogres with some points adjustments could be interesting, right?
Very interesting. Yeah.
So like there are things out there that could be, with very minor changes, could get interesting. I hope they go that road. That's what I'll say.
It's like I said earlier. I mean, it's just a fascinating army in some ways, because like all of the units, again, like individually, some of them don't look that great, but once you add in all the buffs that they could potentially get, they just get ridiculous. And one thing I was going to say, I've been painting up these giant rats, and I was thinking about kind of potentially making some lists that are Molder oriented, and you need bodies on the field. And so I was looking at giant rats, and giant rats aren't particularly great. I don't know, their point values are probably a little too high, and they certainly die in droves. And Skaven is one of those armies where, like, when they're at full numbers, they're pretty scary. Now, they're going to die off and quickly get much, much weaker. But with a couple of buffs, I mean, giant rats have a 3-inch range, and they're hitting on 2s and wounding on 4s. Like, it's pretty easy.
Yeah. They're certainly not the old school nightmare that they were before the change, and that's good. Units of like 40 of them or whatever hitting on 2s and wounding on 2s seemed a bit excessive, certainly. That's a bit much. I'm reminded of when Squirrel Girl took down Doctor Doom when I see stuff like that, and that's a bridge too far. But yeah, like things like that, Molder's one of those things where like they moved up the Hell Pit Abomination, and I was a head scratcher for me, because it wasn't like it was dominating. It wasn't like it was showing up a lot. I think it was probably costed exactly right. It's just like if you did a couple other things in that army need to move down a little.
Rat ogres are crazy good, actually, in like a unit of 8, but 400 points is super steep.
It's just way too much for how defensive they are, right? Yeah, they need to be cheaper. But there is, like, they're not, scrap launcher broken, right? Like, there is a valid points value where they become an interesting option. Yeah. Yeah. Tom?
No, I agree with that. Yep.
Any other closing thoughts you have for them going forward?
No, I mean, they're interesting. I think that they're going to be a spoiler army.
Yeah, sure.
I think that there are some builds that just simply won't be able to cope with them. I think that, like, for example, Fire Slayers are going to have a real hard time with Skaven. Because Skaven are as mobile as they are with the range to pick off the heroes for the Fire Slayers. And so I think that you would feel like just some matchups just won't be able to beat Skaven. And so when they do show up, I think that they are going to ruin some days.
Yeah. I agree. They are always this weird army that's like orthogonal to the rest of the meta that will constantly show up and cause some interesting challenges for your strategy, right? I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. And I think that's a good thing. That's where they should be. That's an interesting role for them to be. And I hope they keep that. Yeah. All right. Rock and roll. All right, gentlemen. Good Skaven revisiting. Hooves, I wish you all the best as you continue to build your Verminous Horde. Do the council proud.
I plan to.
The 13 will be watching you, my friend. But for all of you out there, we certainly appreciate you watching. Thank you very much. As always, next Wednesday will be the Nova reveal show. Don't forget, so it'll be normal time because the Nova show goes from like 7 to 8:30 or something. So we'll kick off at normal time next week. So watch for that. That'll be very exciting. But as always, very much appreciated. And we'll see you next Wednesday. Now let's see if I can stop this thing.